What's up, people? It's JC.I.M.E sitting here with Kyle the Vlogger22, and here we are going to talk to you a little bit about Victor Frankenstein, the film that's currently sweeping the nation. Take it away, Kyle.
We went to go and see Victor Frankenstein a couple of days ago. It stars James McAvoy and the late Harry Potter, who is obviously Daniel Radcliffe. It's set in the early days of Britain in, I think it's World War II, was it?
Probably post. I don't know. It's kind of a combination of either post World War I or just after World War I. It seems to have that kind of cobblestone Londonian feel about it. Still horse-drawn carriages around, but you can see science coming along. There's electricity and stuff, so it's not archaic, but it's definitely somewhat modern.
No, I really love this film, I've got to say. McAvoy played his role, brilliantly.
Yeah, a very, very dramatic acting.
Yeah, however, I mean, this version of the Frankenstein story obviously follows the background of Igor, played by Daniel Radcliffe.
Alright, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Igor aspects of the film, and Kyle here is going to be talking more about the Victor side of the film. We start off pretty much focused on Igor. He is trapped in the circus as a person with a rather large defect, a rather large hunch, forces him onto almost all fours aspects. He gets introduced to Victor when an accident with the love interest reveals Igor's incredible interest and incredible ability about the human body. He actually uses a pocket watch to pop a shoulder joint back into place and free up the lungs of the love interest so she can breathe again, but we'll get into that in a bit.
I'm going to say, I don't want to spoil it too much, but yeah, so she sort of injures herself by falling off a certain piece of apparatus, and then Hunchback, obviously, with his love interest in her, comes to the rescue, and then Victor then sees this interest that he's helping, and, well, how is this guy, like, so clever and everything, and they then team up, basically, to save this woman's life, and then they form this bond and relationship, and then Victor obviously helps the Hunchback, Igor, should I say? We'll call him Igor from now on.
Yeah, so call him Igor from now on, call him the Hunchback,
the
freak in the film.
He's got a name. So then he helps Igor then escape, and then takes him back to, I suppose, his lair?
His laboratory slash house.
Bloody crazy house.
This is where the real dynamic comes in, because Victor is in the esteemed, what was it? He was in the College of Modern Medicine for London.
Yeah, he was still studying, wasn't he?
And he realises that Igor's birth defect that causes the hunch is actually, a fluid-filled sack that just needs to be drained.
That's a brilliant scene.
Oh, it's a brilliantly...
very gruesome, but yeah, so he realises that he's not actually a hunchback, it's just pus, so he just stabs him with this massive needle, and he said, did that hurt? Because that's not even the worst bit. And then he breaks his spine or something, I'm not quite sure.
He brings him back into line, because obviously he's been hunched over for most of his life.
So his spine is sort of...
defected, so he straps him into it, cleans him up, and suddenly we kind of see the Hunchback turn into Igor, and that's where we'll leave it.
Yeah. So anyway, their friendship and bond increases throughout the film, and whilst they're in their laboratory, obviously, what's his name? Victor. He has this huge obsession with science and everything, and he wants to... what's the word?
He wants to recreate life in the short form. Everyone knows Victor Frankenstein, that's where the film will go, and that is where Victor is interested in. He's got fascination with understanding how the anatomy works after, during, and in that brief moments after death. I think this one doesn't work.
So Victor then shows Igor, who isn't actually called Igor yet because he hasn't given him a name. He then shows him his first creation, which is like a pair of eyes in this, I suppose, this sort of solution, isn't it?
Yeah, it's some kind of brain.
And he basically shows Igor, who isn't actually called Igor yet, how he can bring them to life. So he has this, like, I suppose, like an electrical wheel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big generator, Van de Graaff generator.
Cranks that up, and obviously these eyes sort of come to life and they start moving, but they're not in sync.
No, Victor puts a lit match in front of them, and the eyes start to try and follow it and react somewhat to the light being given by the match, but they're not reacting properly.
At which point, Igor then jumps in and then says that the receptors or the
the
vessels,
neurons, whatever it was,
weren't. He hadn't connected them properly, and he knew how to figure it out.
So Victor turns around and goes, "Brilliant! That's exactly why I wanted you here.
This is why I wanted you. Yeah,
and that leads
to help
the story.
me with my creation. That then leads the film on to obviously create Frankenstein."
So the last little bit we'll talk about the movie here. We'll move on to more along the lines of what we felt was the good points, the bad points, some of the stunts, some of the maybe not so good acting, or maybe some of the plot errors and where we're thinking the film will lead on to, but we'll get into that in a second. The last kind of section we'll talk about is quickly the love interest going on between Igor and Lorelei. Lorelei is the one from the circus who's had the accident and sparked the friendship between Victor and Igor. Lorelei then gets found by a somewhat rich gentleman of leisure, I would say, and she becomes sort of the courtesan, whatever you want to call it, of him, and a bit more of a status symbol, but with Igor's improvement in his body and his physique, and with Victor's reputation in the medical world, they meet up and their love starts to fall and starts to blossom. Absolutely important to the story.
Going back to when they were in the laboratory, shown Igor the eyes, and then started creating assignments for him to obviously create a heart, lungs, liver, did all that stuff, and then gave it then back to Victor, who took it down in his basement, I suppose, where Igor wasn't allowed. Anyway, he then obviously makes his creation, which is, I suppose, like Frankenstein Mark 1.
Mark 1, yeah, exactly.
Anyway, they then this all goes ahead. It works brilliantly, and then they want to show this creation off to the public, or his college friends.
Yeah, his college, because it's foreign his assignment, and he's trying to get, I suppose,
he's trying to bring something dead to life, basically. Isn't he? That's
so he goes on, puts it on display, and Lorelei gets invited by Igor to come and see the display, and
she does turn up. Along with this rich bloke who we've been on about, who we forget the name of. He turns up. It doesn't go as planned, but...
Not even slightly.
Yeah, it doesn't go as planned, but anyway, he then forms this relationship with Igor and Frankenstein. They team up, and then they get funded, I suppose, to
create the second version, a better version, a bigger version, a more stable version.
Yeah, of the Frankenstein.
This is where things start to fall apart between Victor and Igor, because Lorelei is becoming more important to Igor and has pointed out that it's fine to create or bring someone back to life. You know, that way of Victor's dream was to bring a murder victim back to life and accuse his creator. They accuse his murderer. But Lorelei points out that that's fine, but that's recreating life, that's bringing back life. What you're doing now is creating life. You're creating something that should never be
created, yeah.
And that's where the relationship starts to fall apart. We see the rift between Igor and Frankenstein, and this rich bloke slots right into the centre of this and manipulates Frankenstein into creating a 2.0, a bigger, better version, despite even he knowing this isn't really going along the lines that he wanted to go.
Oh, it was a case of he couldn't power enough. He couldn't get enough power to create this monster of what he dreamed.
He didn't have the resources. He couldn't get access to all the body parts. You know, he was having to steal them and find them from animals.
I mean, he nicked the foot of the lion from the circus when he rescued Eagle, didn't he? So,
yeah.
That's
it's all that sort of aspect. So the rich guy gives the access that Frankenstein needs, and the second Frankenstein sees all this open up to him, he just ditches everything behind and goes for it. Igor and Lorelei find out through Igor's attempted assassination that once Victor has fulfilled his usefulness, and once the rich bloke has everything he needs out of him, Victor will be knocked off. So off go Igor and Lorelei to go save Victor up at the Scottish castle.
Who's basically gone mad with his whole creation, hasn't he? He's just gone absolutely mental. So they go away to this castle, I suppose, in this rundown area, really. A storm's hitting, and obviously lightning strikes, which is an incredible amount of power to obviously bring
This new
the Frankenstein to life, I suppose, which he manages to do. And I mean, he's this huge thing. I mean, in scale to a person,
he's 2.5 times.
Yeah, he's got two of. You got to think he's got two of everything. Because Victor wanted this guy to just be huge, and to harness that much power, he needed two of everything. So he had 2 hearts, 2 sets of lungs, 2 livers.
I will
everything.
go back slightly. The original Frankenstein Mark 1 was falling apart. Even with it being brought back to life, it wasn't a perfect fit, because obviously he's got body parts mixed match, he's got different animals, different species, so it starts to fall apart. And Victor and Igor realise that, okay, we're going to need to make a man of one full man to do this, but then to get enough electricity into the body to get it to come back to life, it needs to be big to hold the power. That's why they get 2 hearts, 2 lungs, make them as massive as possible to store the energy to accept it.
Yeah.
That's why they need the lightning.
So at which point he comes to life, and at the end you got this obviously massive big finale, all these stunts are going on and explosions and debris going everywhere, and for me personally, it's really, really good film right up until that point where he came to life and you see this massive being, and it's incredible until they throw in all these explosions and debris, and I just think they tried too hard, maybe.
I think that's probably fair, because it was well done. The stunts they weren't lacking stunts. It wasn't that the stunts were mediocre. They were good stunts. It was just they weren't really needed.
They went over the top. I think.
Yeah.
It could have just been toned down a bit. But I mean, other than that, the visual effects, the camera angles, you never missed a moment. You felt like you were with them in that castle, even though you weren't. And yeah, overall, just a really, really good film. I think it was 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Something along those lines.
It's
very
a
engrossing.
reasonably, long film. But at no point throughout the whole film was I bored or twiddling my thumbs. I was glued to the screen throughout the whole thing.
Very much agreed.
So, overall, I'd probably give it 4 out of 5.
If that's your marking scale.
I don't know about you. I'd say 4 out of 5.
I mean, let's put it this way: in the rank of my top 10 films ever, probably not. It's up there in good films, and it's films I would recommend to people. But is it my top 10? Not quite. Like you said, there was a couple of bits that were just a little bit overdone. There was a couple of bits that were a little bit slow. Little bits of, some plot errors. But hopefully we're not making too many spoilers here of the actual film. They do at the end lead up to a second film.
I was going to say, they hint at a sequel. I was going to say, just before you finish then, do you want to say what happens with the sequel? So obviously,
after all the issues at the castle
and commotions and explosions and stunts,
we get the feeling that Victor leaves Igor and Lorelei, and he leaves a parting note to the two of them, and
he basically just says three's a crowd, and
pretty much, and that he was saying that I can understand where we went wrong this time. As for now, live life, be free, and enjoy yourself with your love. Remember that you will always be my greatest creation, which is quite a sweet ending. But that point where he said, "I have a feeling, or I think I understand where we went wrong," he's going to try again.
Yeah, he's going to try again. He's mental, so
I don't even know if mentally he's just so driven, because we won't give away the big spoiler here.
I was going to say,
give away the spoiler of why he's driven, but there is that in there.
That was what I was questioning throughout the whole film. I was like, what is his reason for creating this life? I had no idea until, obviously right at the end, and
it gets revealed.
Igor finds out, Victor tells Igor, and it's a brilliant storyline and why he is creating life. But I won't spoil that part. That's huge spoilers. You'll have to go watch the film for yourself.
Yes. And I'm guessing with that, are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go, yeah.
Right, sweet. Leave a like if you think we did a good job. Hit the subscribe on myself and my good friend here's channels.
Yes, please.
Let us know in the comments if there's anything else you would like to see the two of us do together.
Any films that you want to see that you haven't seen yet, we can review them for you. Let us know. Comment below.
Brilliant. Have a good one, guys.
Try. So, what's his name? I can't remember. Scott Lang. So he's a